It's one of those things, as soon as I start feeling smart about X's and O's, I stop. It's like you. It's like Chris, when you go to have a personal conversation with someone, or I don't know, a Teams chat with your boss, I did the thing you should do, which is I should stop and go, I don't have people skills. I don't think I understand as much about this as I think I do. Let me go ask someone who I know understands. To another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And Chris, it's funny because this time of year, I mean, we've talked about it for weeks now. It really is. Last week, we didn't do shows.
No, you literally...
I was like, I have nothing. I'm exhausted I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. I have nothing to say. Which is a crazy thing.
Now we do, because July, my birthday's next week. This was also a license renewal year, so I went and got myself enhanced license.
Okay.
So I can go to Canada. So you know what that means? You get federal grand jury in the mail almost immediately with a brand new driver's license.
Yes.
Somebody's got it. This is, I got a questionnaire, and it's for federal jury service. So,
not even like local courthouse. This is
somebody's going to have to help me get out of this.
Here's what
My dad said, just put in that you're now a member of the NRA.
You know what the funny thing is? Jury duty has become this thing, right? Where, you know, it's in the Constitution that you are eligible for trial by a jury of your peers, or the Bill of Rights. It's the Bill of Rights. You are eligible for this as a citizen of the United States. And yet, the older and older I get, the more and more I look around and I go, I don't know if I can find 12 people that I trust with my future. To be like, well, take us to a trial. Whoa. Your lawyer's like, no, we've got a good chance at this. No. Is it 80-20? Because if it's 60-40, I think you're underestimating how dumb the 40% might be. I don't know have you seen the mouth breathers that are around us on a near constant basis? You
know what I've done in Atlanta before? I think 2009 was a nice fun year of fun employment for me, because I was working mortgages, and then the crash happened. So it lasted 6 months. One of my buddies was...
So you're saying it's your fault?
Yeah.
You caused the housing crisis.
One of my buddies was into market research. Like, I went to a place in Atlanta, and I drank like Busch Light and got paid $75 for an hour to drink Busch Light. And I've also done that with like pizza. You have $50. We need you for a half hour. Eat and rank these pizzas.
You're literally describing what Mark Smith does for free. Like, this is just his life outside of the office.
Well, the money maker to do is mock jury trials, where you spend a whole day and you get like $300, because there might be a lawsuit happening, and a lawyer might tell their client, like, I don't think you have a chance, but what we can do is we can put it into market research and run a mock trial. We're going to pay 12, or I think that you do 24 people, so you have two different groups, and we'll put it through. We'll do a mock trial for the whole day, market research, and we'll show you through market research that we think this is going to be the outcome. And I've done that I think I've done that like twice back in Atlanta.
So you were doing this, and now you don't want to do it for real? You'd rather go, if I'm hearing you correctly, you would rather go play court. You would rather dress up and go play court rather than just be in court.
I believe play court paid more money.
That's the most insane thing anyone's ever said. I shouldn't say ever, because I've heard some insane things. But that's recently, that might be one of the dumber things I've heard. wouldn't you feel like if you had to go do it, wouldn't you want it to mean something? Like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to get dragged into this, if I'm going to go down there and sit in a room and listen to something that someone allegedly did and have to decide what their future looks like, I want to know that it matters.
But I'm also the type that, like Mac, I'm dug in. It's like
preconceived notion. You're like, I'll never change.
It's like 11-1 or 10-2. There might be someone on my side, and they're like, well, we need you to flip so we can, end this trial. No. See here tomorrow where I still say the same thing because I'm fucking dug in.
See, now here's the best part. You were asking how to get out of this. Just play this audio. Bring it with you and play it for the attorneys. When they sit you down, they start asking you questions. You go, guys, I just need you to hear something. Play this discourse for them. They will excuse you with the quickness.
Yeah, I'll just cut this up and because this thing here has a something I can fill out online. So if I can put in my own attachment of this conversation, they're going to say, you know what? We don't need you.
Don't show up.
We're good.
In fact, if you come down here, we're going to take you into custody. Now, jury duty, I'll tell you what. It is funny. I once threatened the Village of Hamburg judge with demanding a jury trial over a traffic ticket.
Checks out.
I was just like, look, you're not stealing my Saturday. You're not stealing another of my Saturdays with a 5-hour course. I'm just not doing it. And they were like, well, it's only a couple parking tickets and a 5-hour course. And I was dug in. I wasn't going to go do that. So I said no. And they said, well, that's the best offer. I said, okay, jury trial. And they go, what? I go, it's my right to demand a jury trial for this incident. I'm invoking that right. They made me sit in the back of the courthouse until every single person had gone, seen the DA, seen the judge. They were sentenced. And then they come back to me. They're like, all right, you've had some time to think about it. Have we changed your mind? Not even a little bit. I've been thinking about what I'm going to wear. I've been, this is like
sleeveless dress shirt and jacket.
This is pre-smartphone. So I'm just in the back of the room with nothing to do. And I'm like, I've just been sitting here thinking about what I'm going to wear. Some fancy SAT words I can throw around that I think are legalese. Like, I think pro se is a word that I can use here. They were like, and I'm sure the conversation.
Well, I made myself perfectly redundant.
They had they went into another room and had a 3-minute conversation and came out and they were like, basically, okay, idiot, how about this? Instead of 2 parking tickets in traffic school, we're going to give you 7 parking tickets. And I was just like, done. Where's the cashier? They're like, she already went home for the night. So I had to go back. I had to go back later in the week and pay. I was like, I have the money. I'll write you a check. I'll leave it here. They were like, that's not how any of this works. In fact, no, I do think I cashed out that night because they wouldn't let me leave until I paid. But the lady was already packed up and in the act of leaving. That's what it was. It was whatever it was a whole fracas. The whole thing was just stupidity. Their part, my part. And that's what the legal system feels like when it comes to juries, jury selection. And I'm happy you get to be a part of it, Chris. I'm happy that you get to be a part of this wonderful tradition.
We'll see where it goes.
So this time of year, short of jury duty, we're kind of grasping at straws for what to talk about. You're either grasping at straws or you're rehashing one of a million position group previews, which I can't even pretend to care about.
You want to talk about James Cook?
For the umpteenth time?
Yeah.
No. I think we've already all made our fucking points about James Cook. I'll tell you this. I think that the preseason process was more fun from a content creation standpoint when the Bills were bad. Even before we started doing this podcast, the off seasons during the drought felt more exciting. And that's how you know you're in trouble, is if you're looking forward to training camp as a fan of your NFL football team, your team is in trouble. It means that if you have a half dozen legitimate position battles, your team is going to suck this year. I mean, Chris, look at a couple. I Googled it. Look at the short list I came up with. 2005, it was Josh Reed fighting Sam Aiken and Roscoe Parrish for pecking order in the wide receiver depth chart. And then in 2013, it was TJ Graham and Marquise Goodwin. I bet you we could go through the wide receiver depth charts during the drought, and outside of Lee Evans and Eric Moulds, who else do you think, how many of those guys do you think you could name off the top of your head?
Not a lot.
Robert Woods. I know Josh Reed because I yelled a lot of profanity at him.
Naaman Roosevelt.
Guys who actually played.
He did play. He had one good catch on the sideline.
Donald Jones.
Yes.
No.
T.O.
T.O. It's like you would, but try naming all 5 starting wide receivers or 5 wide receivers on the roster during the drought. I bet you can't.
No, I'm not even going to try.
But every year you'd go into training camp being like, man, I can't wait to see who comes out on top. It turns out it doesn't matter. It's just a big turd sandwich, and we're all here taking bites out of it. 2006, look at this. Cody Ford in 2017. Cody Ford versus Ty Nsekhe at right tackle. Turns out they both stunk. Ty Nsekhe just stunk less. And then I think the one that always sticks with me is in 2015. Tyrod Taylor, Matt Castle, and EJ Manuel competing for a starting quarterback job. I was at the Rivers Casino. It's like 11 a.m. and I remember telling everybody I wasn't going to start drinking until at least after lunch. It's like, look, it's been a long guy's trip. You guys go gamble. I'll walk down. I'll meet you there, and I'm not going to start drinking until after lunch. And then as I'm sitting there, because I don't play cards, so I'm just walking around trying to find a table game to play, there's an ESPN segment on the bar, and I see the Bills logo on. So as one does, Chris, you stop and look at what they're talking about. And it's Mark Schlereth. And he's talking about the Buffalo Bills quarterback battle. And he just absolutely savaged the Bills. Just absolute slander. Talking about how if those, Chris, are your 3 competing starting quarterbacks, the real loser is the Bills fan base because you don't have a starting quarterback. Was he wrong?
Mm-mm.
At the time, I was very upset. I immediately ordered a 22-ounce tall boy draft beer, and my day just started the process of coming off the rails. That was it, just before 11 a.m. We have seen some absolute crap. Having a bunch of position battles to talk about is actually a terrible thing, unless you're in this content creation sphere, or you're a journalist, or you're Joe Buscaglia working at The Athletic and you need things to talk about. But for once, we're blessed because there is something noteworthy happening right in front of us, something wholly unprecedented in NFL history. And it does directly impact the Buffalo Bills, both now and in the future. As of today, 30 of the 32 second-round picks taken in the 2025 NFL Draft are unsigned to their rookie contracts. It's the first time in history this many second-rounders have remained unsigned after July 3rd. Generally speaking, they're in the single digits by this point in the offseason process. Chris, do you want to take a gander as to why? Maybe just try to guess what it is that's driving this massive impasse?
I believe it's guarantees.
Guaranteed money. See, generally speaking, first-round picks have been the only draft selections with fully guaranteed deals. You can see, like we see with the Bengals and their first-round pick, defensive end Shamar Stewart, there's a lot of elements of the deal that are highly negotiable. But the deal itself, all 4 years, and then the potential 5th year, if you're selected in the first round, are fully guaranteed. That's why if you're the Buffalo Bills, you can't just cut a Kyle Elam. You have to go find a trade partner for, even if it's a throwaway draft pick, just because you need that cap number if you want to move away from him off your books. And if you cut him, you don't get any benefit anyway.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You should ask Jay Skursky.
I would, but he's blocked us on social media. Second rounders, though, despite a lot of times outplaying some of the guys drafted at the back half of the first round, they were never guaranteed the same things as part of their basic rookie wage scale that was implemented back in the 2011 CBA. And when you think about why they're out here fighting for this, Chris, there is evidence of a trickle-down effect. It goes back to 2022. Jalen Petrie gets drafted by the Houston Texans. And again, we're here it's funny that we're talking about the Texans and all this mess, because back in 2022, they drafted Jalen Petrie. And he was one of the first players to get his guarantees increased in both the 3rd and 4th year. Historically, second-round picks up to that point had seen most of their guarantees front-loaded because it made the contract more flexible for GMs in case those players don't pan out. That just seems like smart money management, doesn't it?
Yes.
So when Jalen Petrie got his 3rd and 4th year guarantees increased, Okay. He went from, like, after him, it was 20% of the third year and 7% of the 7% of the fourth year in 2021. His numbers got increased to 90% of his third year and 80% of his fourth year. Nobody after that, right? Everybody's numbers started creeping up. Guys started getting 75 and then 70 and then 65 in their third year, which before that was unheard of. Jalen Petrie and the Houston Texans started it. So now when you look at where the impasse lies, there's evidence that as these guys take deals that are more geared towards a higher amount of long-term guaranteed money, there is other agents will fall in line, and there will be teams that will abdicate just to get the player on the field, and there will be a trickle down for the entire board. Now, when you think about all of the stuff that's gone on in the NFL over the last few weeks, Chris, the collusion findings.
Yes.
The collusion findings where the league conspired together to suppress guaranteed salaries after the Haslams went and shit the bed with the Deshaun Watson situation and his guaranteed deal. How angry do you think the owners and GMs are right now to watch the Houston Texans once again be the one that goes out there and causes a problem when it comes to guaranteed money in the NFL draft?
Yeah, it was was their second round pick the latest one to sign? Because
he was the first.
Okay.
And so this is how this thing falls apart. Wide receiver Jaden Higgins was the second round pick. Okay. And so what Nick Caserio, their GM, has said he wanted to foster a positive team culture by saying, look, we trust you. We expect you to be a big part of our offense going forward. So we're going to fully guarantee your contract. I will say there has been evidence here. Like, think about how Brandon Beane does business. There's evidence that when you deal in a very straightforward way that's sort of player friendly, it can benefit you in terms of building a culture for a team that doesn't have one, right?
Yeah.
Right? You can all ask yourselves. I think if Brandon Beane wasn't doing business that way, maybe we don't get out of the dark ages of Bills football and end up where we are now. So if that's what Caserio's chasing, I guess I understand wanting that. They also wanted to avoid any future risk of holdout or contract disputes and make future negotiations easier. Totally understand, bully for you. Now the rest of the NFL is paying for it. This decision of theirs has started a domino effect that has nearly the entire round of players holding out. Now, part of what complicates this, and we'll talk about the actual setup of everything itself, but first of all, Chris, NIL money has absolutely skewed all of these conversations. Because what you have is a bunch of old heads at home, probably half the people who are listening to this with 5 beers in their system going, these kids should just shut up and play. They're getting an NFL contract. They should consider themselves lucky that they get to go play NFL pro football. NIL money shoots a gigantic hole in that. Chris, do you know what the average starting quarterback in the SEC makes on NIL money or will make in 2025?
I have no idea, but my brain immediately goes to, didn't Quinn Ewers have one more year of eligibility? And I think he would be making more at college if he had stayed versus being picked in the 7th round by Miami.
Well, let's talk about this. Right now, the average starting SEC quarterback is going to make $3.2 million per year. Chris, if you want to go look at Swessinger, pull up his Spotrac and tell me what his total guaranteed contract is and what the AAV is on that.
Who is this?
The Carson Swessinger, the first pick in the 2nd round. So you as a player at the collegiate level as a quarterback are going to make $3.2 million per year. That's more than pretty much every, what is this? The average annual salary for the top pick in the 2nd round is $2.9 million per year. So if you play an important enough position, you're actually making more money in college than you will as a 2nd round pick, given the current rookie wage scale. Because the rookie wage scale was created before NIL dollars was even a thing. And that dynamic's not going to get better. I mean, the NCAA just 3 weeks ago, had to settle, right? They had to settle a massive $2.8 billion lawsuit where they're going to go back and they're going to pay any player who played NCAA football from 2016 on, they're owed reparations. And then they're obviously going to have to keep paying going forward to try to attract talent. And then you look at the monetary pools and how that's growing. Right now, the average SEC football team has a budget of $34.5 million on average for NIL contracts. And the Big Ten, $10.6 million per team. You know, some of them are up towards 20 if you're talking about Ohio State and Michigan. So when you're talking about how do you negotiate with this, the rookie wage scale is completely archaic now. You got to throw that out the window because these kids are actually making more money than they will as a second round pick unless you can incentivize them to sign it with some sort of extra financial security. That's where this fist fight comes from. It comes from the NFL slow playing their acclimation to the changing landscape of college football. That's how you find yourself in this mess if you're the NFL. So now you think about the philosophical shift, considering the lack of fully guaranteed deals that the NFL, it kind of allows the NFL, the flexibility that these non-guaranteed contracts have given teams. Like, think about the NHL, Chris. If you sign a bad contract, you're just stuck with it, and you have to pay to buy the contract out.
Yes, and what recently happened, I think either yesterday, Sunday, or Saturday, is there are some teams that are so far from the salary cap floor that they have to take on bad contracts because Ryan Reeves got traded from Toronto, who's like a 37-year-old fourth line fight. He's a fighter.
He scores nothing. He has no offensive upside. I think his
contract is, I mean, I'd have to look it up, but he makes like $3 to $4 million a year. So San Jose makes a trade for him because they're not even close to the salary cap floor, that they just we'll take Ryan Reeves because we have to get to the floor, and he sucks, but he gets paid a lot, and he has like a year left. So we are able to take on that contract from Toronto and give him, a draft pick or a prospect.
That's the type of thing where you really have to figure out where you want to be as the NFL if you want to maintain this flexibility that you've had. I mean, you think about the gamble that this becomes if you start guaranteeing all these second round contracts. Like, having one fully guaranteed contract per year in the draft helps you with cap solvency. And you look at some of the numbers around that. Bills wide receiver Keon Coleman, he was drafted with the top pick in the second round in 2024. He had 95.6% of his contract guaranteed. Pick number 35, that number fell to 88%. And by the time it got all the way down to the 40s, it was down to the low 70s. Like that's about where TJ Sanders got drafted. And then the final pick in the round was down to 52% of their deal being guaranteed. And all of these guarantees are front loaded so that by year 3 and 4, you can offload these players if you need to. I mean, look at just the last couple years. 2022, wide receiver George Pickens, New York Giants wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, Kansas City wide receiver Sky Moore. In 2021, I mean, all three of those are wide receivers, one of whom's already on a different team, and two of whom there's no way they get a second contract with their existing team. They probably get cut after this season or potentially this year's training camp. 2021, Seattle's wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge, who's now playing for Miami. Buffalo defensive end Boogie Basham, who isn't even in the NFL anymore. Cincinnati offensive tackle Jackson Carman, who I believe is now a tackle for the Chiefs. Fact check me on that.
What is Creed Humphrey doing?
We should ask Greg Thompson. Everybody tweet at Greg Thompson right now. Hey, do you remember when Boogie Basham got picked over Creed Humphrey? Just that's it. Hey, do you remember? I love that. I love needling him about that. The Chargers, cornerback Asante Samuel, who is currently a free agent, and he's not signed with anybody. New York Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, taken in the 2021 draft in the second round. These are all players who either already are or soon will be on a different team than the one that drafted them, and that's all a byproduct of their team having incentive to move on from them earlier rather than being stuck letting them play out their contract. None of this movement happens or is possible if you fully guarantee those contracts, or at least not that it's not possible, but now you can't offload that without giving something up, or you're cutting a player for no cap benefit. Like it would be like us cutting Boogie Basham and just eating the 1.8 million or 2 point whatever million his contract would have been worth in its final year. That sucks. That's not ideal. But then it's also not ideal to keep hanging on to players who just aren't a good fit. They didn't pan out. Like, you as a team almost need that flexibility to be able to move on from that player. And it's also not completely one-sided. Look at the value for the players. Like Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was drafted to a terrible Jets team. I think he got taken the same year that they drafted, what's his stupid face, Zach Wilson?
Possibly.
So they draft him, and he just gets thrown into a terrible offense. It never works. I believe he was traded or cut and then signed with the Browns. If you want to, Chris, pull up his Wikipedia. How did he get to the Browns?
More than a third-round pick sent to Cleveland for a second.
So they were able to get rid of his contract because it was worth almost nothing. And he sat there on Cleveland's books and did just about what, I mean, he had a lot of catches, but not a lot of yards, not a lot of scoring. Even last year, 61 catches. Okay. 61 catches for 538 yards.
Moore went to a similar quarterback room situation in Cleveland as he had with the Jets. That's why he's so glowing since he's been here with the Bills, talking about catching passes from Allen.
Yeah. I mean, to put this into context for people, Elijah Moore's best season, 59 catches, 641 yards. Khalil Shakir in 2023 had 611 yards, and he did it on 39 catches. So he's more of a volume target than anything else. But look at his career now. He goes from a guy who's languishing with two of the worst offensive football teams in the league, and now he gets to go play he's primed for a career, maybe a career-defining season while he's still in his athletic prime, and he gets to go play for an AFC contender. All of that made possible by the fact that he was a second-round pick and could pick kind of where he wanted to go, and he was moved. He was moved in the middle of his deal as soon as the guaranteed money made it make sense. So now there's a fight here brewing. Owners who have proven to us that they will collude and cheat the players and the union, if they need to, in order to try to suppress pay. An NFLPA that can't afford, their leadership can't afford to be seen as soft. In the aftermath of that collusion stuff, where they basically just took the two-knee approach and kissed the ownership's ass, I think if they want to keep their spots at the top of the players' union, they're going to have to, it's got to be known that they're pushing this. This can be a win for them if they aggressively encourage players and agents to set a precedent that'll help future NFL draftees. I think that would go a long way towards helping bridge the gap and some of the negative PR that currently exists about those guys and how they do their job. And then you've got the agents in the middle who are trying to maintain existing league relationships while not being seen as weak negotiators, because if that's the case, are future rookies going to look to you, Chris?
I was just looking at the CBA is up at the end of the 2030 league year. Are you allowed to make amendments with rookie contracts in that manner to kind of solve this situation?
You could do what they always do. You could threaten a holdout, and then you'd have to drag everyone to the table and say, look, we want to renegotiate early, or we force you to make an amendment. But the problem is the group asking for the amendment usually has to give something up, right? Mm-hmm. It should be in both parties' interest to find a way to bridge this gap. Do I think that they'll do it? Yeah. I think that this will end in utter stupidity before that happens. And it's funny, former NFL All-Pro defensive lineman Ndamukong Suh had an interesting take on it, because he was talking about how he just thinks that the guaranteed money aspect of the rookie wage scale from 2011, kind of how I said it was outdated. His quote was, "The guaranteed money aspect is certainly a benefit, providing a level of security that wasn't there before. But when you look at the broader picture of player compensation and market value of top talent, the scale has arguably suppressed earning potential for a significant portion of the league's newest players. So while you get clear upside in one area, the overall impact on players' financial trajectory leans towards the negative. And he's spot on. And the owners knew that when they put the rookie wage scale in place. So now what you have is a bunch of guys who are trying to make money for their clients, players who want that money, and owners who don't want to give it up. And you have a rookie wage scale that's completely outdated when it comes to the modern dynamics of collegiate and professional football. Nothing good's going to come from that. And so the precedent that gets set here will absolutely have an impact on the future of player movement, on how teams draft and how they prioritize or deprioritize certain positions. It'll impact the way teams have to work around the salary cap. And now you just have this just a series of dominoes. It starts with Higgins. Carson Schwarzenegger is important, Chris, because as soon as Higgins signed his deal, Carson Schwarzenegger's agent just went to the Browns and said, hey, idiots. That guy got a fully guaranteed deal. He got drafted after my client. We're not signing anything. You give me that deal or we're not signing. And they're like, well, shit, we can't fight that because the precedent has been set. And so we have to keep with that. I mean, they could have pulled a Bengals, I guess, and dragged it out. So now agents are watching to see who the next player to land the next deal is, because that same thing will hold true down the line. And if you look at the graphic here, Chris, first of all, the highest pick next on the list is Nick Emanwari, the safety for Seattle. You know that the league is already in his agent's ear about this, saying, look, you got to hold the line. It's important for the future of NFL rookies that you guys hold the line and make sure that your team is the third team in a row to sign a deal that fully guarantees that contract. Meanwhile, at pick 40, one pick ahead of the Bills, TJ Sanders, Saints rookie quarterback Tyler Sho's agent is openly and publicly demanding a fully guaranteed deal. And unlike a lot of guys, he's got the leverage to do it. Like, you think about this, Chris, fully expects to be the starting quarterback, wouldn't you?
Yes.
But when you look at where he got drafted, first of all, that quarterback depth chart for New Orleans stinks, no matter how you look at it. I don't care what show turns into it. That quarterback room sucks.
They might need to take a look at Buffalo native Nate Geary.
He goes, guys, you should see my tape from Buff State. All right. I can throw interceptions with the best of them. Think about when Carr's retirement announcement came. Well after the draft.
Yes.
Tyler Sho was taken. If you think about the timing of all this, he wasn't drafted. Like, you think about this. If you really thought a quarterback was good and that he was a rookie that you want control over long term, given their cost, you do what the Giants did and you trade up into the first round like they did for Jackson Dart so that you get a fifth-year option. And that becomes a bargaining chip when it comes time to maybe negotiate a second contract with a player. You do. The Ravens did it with Lamar Jackson because they said, okay, he's going to fall out of the first round. It's actually worth it for us to trade up and get him in the first because we get that fifth-year option that we can then use as some leverage in order to, because now we get the fifth-year option plus a potential franchise tag, plus a second franchise tag if we want to. The player will cave and sign a deal. They draft Tyler Sho in the second round because they thought they had a starter and they saw him as, he's flexible. It's a low-cost developmental prospect, and if he doesn't pan out, we can cut him after the second year, and it doesn't matter, or we can ship him off somewhere for nothing, and it'll be fine. The fact that they took him where they did tells you that's what they thought of him. So now that he's going to probably be their starter, it's in his best interest to strike while the iron's hot, and he's got leverage. He can absolutely back them into a corner and say, I'm not taking the field until you fully guarantee my contract.
And the other reason why you would want to do fully guaranteed, if you saw that graphic, it says Tyler Shaw is 25 years old.
He's an old college quarterback.
There's, I think, on that list, there's only two players that are 25. Everyone else is younger.
Yeah, so when Tyler Shaw gets to the end of his deal, he'll be almost 30. Look, let's say this works. He's Brandon Weeden. If this works, and he plays out his deal and it comes time to negotiate a contract extension because he's one of the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. He's going to be 29, turning 30. That's insane.
Yeah. You would probably have to give him something similar to like a Brock Purdy type of deal, like for that 10 to 15 range quarterback if this guy pans out.
So then to put this all now that I've laid it all out for you into the context of Bill's second round pick, TJ Sanders. It's tough. Him and his agent have zero incentive to cave, to listen to offers, to sign anything until all of this movement around them starts to happen. Because with the trickle-down effect, at worst, they should be able to get the Bills to guarantee significant portions of his third and fourth year of his contract, above and beyond what's already become commonplace when it comes to those things. If he shows up to camp, gives 100%, like maybe, what would it take to get him there? And if he does show up, Chris, not even a hold, first of all, you run the risk of a hold in, but also you run the risk of a guy who shows up and just lollygags because he goes, look, I have an insurance waiver, but I'm not going to go out there and put myself at risk because I need to know that I'm going to make some money. It's tough. So when you look at the actual impact on the Bills and just the salary cap and everything else, I want to start with the money aspect for TJ Sanders because I think it's the most quantifiable. It's the most easily, it's the thing I can get my hands around first. We know that Keon Coleman at the top of the round 2 last year signed a deal worth $10 million. It was like $10.09 million. Considering the same pick this year signed an $11.8 million deal, we'll call the increase 18%, just year over year for the second round, and you can kind of use that as your margin of inflation 1 year to the next. Last year's 41st pick had 77.9% of their deal guaranteed. There was defensive back Kool-Aid McKinstry, Roll Tide, who went to the New Orleans Saints. When you look at the guaranteed number, so it was $99,157,108 over 4 years. $7.2 million of that was guaranteed at signing. You would be looking at increasing those figures, go 18%. The whole salary would go up about $2 million, 1.8 over the life of the contract, which increases your annual total by an additional $472,000. If you increase that by the inflation we're working with, TJ Sanders is probably looking at a fully guaranteed deal if he gets it of $10.8 to $11 million, $2.7 to $2.9 million average annual value. And that uptick is important because the Bills, Chris, they have levers they can pull at their disposal to generate cap space. Right now, they've only got $95,000 above the cap, and they don't have him signed. Depending on how much more, because Brandon Beane works the salary cap. So I'm positive that he went into this with some sort of concept of, hey, we know that we have to get all of our draft picks signed. And they wouldn't have traded up to sign a more expensive guy than their original pick if they didn't have a plan on how to get there. That makes sense?
Yes.
The problem with what you're talking about doing now, Bills Spotrac. I just want to see this. 2025. I want to look at the salary cap table. The problem you run into is if it costs more. And for a cap strap team like the Buffalo Bills, maybe even it doesn't have to be that much more than what you were going to give them before. You may end up having to make some decisions you didn't want to. Wouldn't be the first time that happened to Brandon Beane. You remember during the COVID year, they had crafted Star Latuli's deal so that by the time it came time to sign other players, Star Latuli's deal would have come off the books, and they wouldn't be on the hook for his dead cap if they released him. Then he opted out for the COVID season, and it didn't burn that year of his contract. And that skewed a whole bunch of things, and Brandon Beane ended up having to spin plates and make some decisions that he even admitted, this did make things tougher than I wanted him to be. Now, this wouldn't be as significant a bump, but at the same time, you think about who's out there that you could potentially either extend or restructure to try to give yourself cap space. But you just made all these moves to sign the core of your team and set yourself up to go be a player in free agency over the next 2 or 3 years. or to retain more of your own if these draft picks do pan out. You're now talking about potentially, having to make a decision or two you didn't want to if this comes down this way. And at this point, it almost seems like a foregone conclusion that he's going to, right?
Yeah.
Or you risk the player holding out and just being defiant that he's not going to play. Now, I woke up with the idea this morning of, I don't know how much that matters. Like, if you want to talk about it from a schematic standpoint, it's not like he has a skill set nobody else on the team has.
Yeah, he's looked to be we're looking at for a rotational player with
rotational
all the people that we brought in,
defensive tackle,
and the people that we drafted, although it kind of sucks that Hoecht and Ogunjobi are suspended for 6 games, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, and you think about that. That plays into some of this. Because and on one hand, it's easy to say, hey, the skill set's redundant. We already have a bunch of 3-techs. It doesn't matter whether TJ Sanders misses camp or misses giant portions of camp and doesn't come into the season ready. Even with Ogunjobi being out. Chris, if you want to pull up our lads for the Bills there. The Bills have flooded the roster with this specific type of skill set. And so in that way, I started thinking about it in terms of, I don't know what's so special about his skill set that it should matter. And so in that way, with TJ Sanders, Ed Oliver, Larry Ogunjobi, Deion Walker, Dwayne Carter, with all these guys who you're probably going to be able to put on the roster for week 1, I don't know that it matters so much, does it?
Yeah.
But it does. I reached out to, so in my, with my hubris, it's one of those things, as soon as I start feeling smart about X's and O's, I stop. It's like you. Like, it's like, Chris, when you go to have a personal conversation with someone, or I don't know, a Teams chat with your boss, I did the thing you should do, which is I should stop and go, I don't have people skills. I should probably ask someone if this is how one human being would interact with another in a workspace. I say to myself, I don't really understand. I don't think I understand as much about this as I think I do. Let me go ask someone who I know understands it. So I reached out to Anthony Prohaska from Cover One, and he gave me a great analogy because I asked him, out of curiosity, how important do you think TJ Sanders getting off to a fast start this season is for the 25 Bills? He goes, I think it's really important. More so early on because he looks to be defensive tackle 3, but even when Ogunjobi comes back, Sanders is still defensive tackle 4 at worst, and he's going to see a lot of work. And then he gave me this great analogy, even though it was baseball related. Generally speaking, I hate anything baseball related. He said at defensive tackle, they opt to lean into penetration and inside rush over mitigating displacement. And that's why you didn't see them draft Alfred Collins. Even though everyone was like, we need a 1-tech, we need another Daquan Jones. Nope, they took another 3-tech. They prioritized that guy because they care more about the penetration and pass rush and getting back and wreaking havoc behind the line of scrimmage. And they say that that's how we're going to not be vulnerable against the run. It's not going to be because we just eat up space along the line like Delvin Tomlinson or, remember Snacks Harris?
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to build a human wall and ask you to run around it. Instead, we're going to try to shoot gaps and disrupt your plays in the backfield. And in that way, we're going to stop the running attack. He says it's a risk-reward style inside when you're taking into playing the pass and run. They opted for 8 of their 9 hitters in a baseball lineup to be home run guys and not be focused on walks or hitting for average. And that's fine, but that means all your home run guys better hit home runs because they're probably striking out if they don't. So he goes, how many games are you scoring 8 or more runs versus scoring 1 and striking out 12 times? And how many games are you going to fall in between? All the sack production and rush ability gets mitigated a bit if you get blown off the ball versus the run or gap schemed to death and teams just want to run at you. So then you have to commit bodies to the box and it becomes a whole domino effect, which is why your 3-techs have to be rotated and kept fresh consistently, not just throughout the game, but the season. He's a real fart smeller over there, that Anthony Prohaska.
He is.
You guys should go check it out. Disguise coverage on, is he still doing Tuesday nights or is he now on Wednesdays?
I have no idea. I think Tuesdays, probably. He's been spotty in the offseason, which...
As we all should be.
Yeah, as we have been, too. Should be.
But so it's this idea that you want to get good value on your second round pick, but you don't want to get into a prolonged rock fight with this kid who you clearly like his skill set. You've built a philosophy at that position group that incorporates having that guy available. Because on game days, you're probably looking at a world where, depending on how TJ Sanders plays, Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones are your 1 and 2. Larry Ogunjobi's your 3 to 4. TJ Sanders is the other one. Dwayne Carter's probably inactive on game days. Deion Walker might be inactive on game day. Like, it's maybe he's a matchup dependent, start, depending on whether you're playing a team where you feel like you need a Javon Solomon or you need a bigger, heavier guy who you can put out there on the end of a defensive line. TJ Sanders is a big part of why you're thinking this room might be better than it was in previous years. If not just for his own personal performance in terms of pass rush and run disruption, but also because he can then rotate and keep Ed Oliver and Larry Ogunjobi, who are both getting older, keep them fresh, still give you reasonable quality in terms of his downs. And then that way in the third and fourth quarter, you haven't burned out the 2 old guys on your roster. I maintain, and I was talking to a Pittsburgh Steelers guy the other day about how the thing that screws their team over all the time is that they get ridden really hard because Mike Tomlin is an old school head coach. He's still doing full contact practices halfway through the season. And like, you watch how old their team is and how over the course of a season, their line play, both offensive and defensive, deteriorates a bit. And it all comes down to this idea that you can't wear these old guys like Cam Hayward out. Otherwise, they're not going to perform when you need them. The Buffalo Bills are flirting with that if you don't have TJ Sanders playing at full capacity when the season starts. Because Larry Ogunjobi won't be available. Dwayne Carter's probably your starter next to him. How confident are you in that, Chris? A defensive tackle room of Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, and Dwayne Carter? I don't think it scares most people.
No.
So there's a lot hinging on this. And I think they have to find a way to bridge this, but unfortunately, he has zero incentive. So for all the people who are like, I don't understand, when camp starts, if we find out that TJ Sanders is a hold-in, and everyone goes, I can't believe the Bills are going to, they're not negotiating, they're not getting it done. That agent has zero incentive to pick up the phone when Brandon Beane calls. None. He's going to sit back and let everybody else do the negotiating and wait for his turn. Doesn't that make the most sense?
It does.
I'm interested and I'm hopeful. Like, I'm interested to see where this goes because it sets a precedent. And it may even be the catalyst for a complete... I don't think this is big enough to lead to a strike. But I think it's big enough to lead to some saber rattling and some talk about early CBA reconfiguration, renegotiation, maybe a holdout. I don't know. I just know that the financial landscape of the NFL and pro contracts has not kept up with college football. Because college football went from, Chris, what year did NIL start?
It's like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
So in 2 or 3 years, you went from having nobody getting paid to, hey, everyone's going to get paid a little bit, to second round picks making more money if they like Quinn Ewers, who you started off with a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
If Quinn Ewers was going to get a deal from an NCAA university, like, hey, I'll transfer to your school and be your starter because he knows he's going to lose his job to Arch Manning.
Yes.
So him joining the NFL draft tells me there was no schools out there making him an offer. And that's when he decided to go into the NFL draft. And the NFL is at risk of becoming the second option for a lot of people. Like, oh man, I guess, wait, do you mean there's no one who's willing to pay me more to stay in school? I guess I'll go to the NFL. I guess if it's my only option to cash a check, I guess I'll go do that. You as the NFL are flirting with becoming the second option. And that would really skew your ability to continue using the NCAA system as the feeder system that it is, right?
Yeah.
Bang. I love how everyone makes fun of me, too, for asking you so many times where I'm like, ain't that right, Chris? What do you think, Chris? I'm more just trying to goad you to get a response out of you. I'm going to be fascinated with how all of this goes, how the second round drama plays out. Hopefully TJ Sanders shows up and they can find a way to bridge this with him and get him into the building working at 100%, because a lot is riding on it quietly. In fact, here we talk about there's no storylines of note, Chris, and training camp battles that don't matter. That's going to be it. Brandon Beane against second round contracts. That's one of your offseason battles of note. It's going to be really interesting to see where that goes. I can't wait. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. This has been your Rockpile Report.